Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Big Blue Drew 97 here, coming at you with another manga review for My Hero Academia, manga chapter 280, titled Red Riot! So, you can probably guess by the title of this chapter that we're going to have a heavy focus on Kirishima in this chapter. And even when it comes to the cover page for this chapter as well, you'll also know that we're going to have a main focus on Mina, Ashido, Pinky, all of her aliases. So we're going to have a strong focus on her as well in this chapter. And let me just say, before we get right into this chapter, I thought this was a very great chapter when it comes to the development of the students, particularly when it comes to Mina and Kirishima. So that's something I'm going to talk about more in this chapter. So with that out of the way, I'll get right into the chapter, but if I may, I would just ask y'all to leave a like on this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel to help grow this channel more and more each day. And with that out of the way, let's get right into the chapter. And as I said at the beginning, when it comes to the cover page of this chapter, we just have Mina covered in her Acid Man ability, and it's just a really cool color page. It's colored, it looks nice, it shows Mina in a very pleasing light. She looks very cool in this scene, even though she's in her school uniform, and just the aesthetic of the Acid Man surrounding her is very interesting, and we get a little bit more of that in the actual chapter. So we actually start off this chapter how we ended the last chapter. No, not with Mina jumping into or jumping towards Gigantomachia's mouth, but no, we start off this chapter with the forest still being on fire. And something that I didn't notice in the last chapter for why the fire was so big and how it was able to spread so quickly was because Skeptic was able to use his quirk to basically make doubles of Dabi, so it was able to make the fire grow even faster. So we see that the fire is engulfing the forest, but luckily enough, we see that Kaminari is fine, relatively speaking. He is enjoying his little lap pillow with the poltergeist girl, Yanagi, so he's okay. And we also have Sero in this page who's confirming that, yeah, the fire is still raging. None of the heroes or none of the students who have the anesthetic right now are in range to put it in Gigantomachia's mouth. And they're wondering, like, how is this going to happen? How are we going to have to put it in his mouth? And where we cut to the ending of the last chapter where we see Mina heading towards Gigantomachia. And so from this page, we see that Mina's Acid Man is, relatively speaking, able to withstand the heat, withstand the flames of the fire. So she is really the only one at this moment that we know of that can actually get close to Gigantomachia to throw in the anesthetics. And she just has this determined face. And within like a little of the dialogue that she's saying that she can do it. She's pumping herself up and she's trying to do her best. And she is showing development because Mina realizes that she's going up against this tough opponent that even the heroes themselves were unable to go up against. And she's beginning to pump herself up as she goes in to try to throw the anesthetic into Gigantomachia's mouth. And right before she does it, Gigantomachia, who begins to think about trying to find the shortest path to his master. And so he begins to think about these heroes as being flies and how he needs to shake them off. And he finally speaks for the first time, or at least he speaks for the first time to where the heroes hear him. And this is shocking for Mina because she hears this voice and she immediately goes and remembers, like, this voice reminds her of that one villain that she tricked when it came to saving her friends, where she was completely terrified afterwards. She's like, so she's coming to the realization that that villain is Gigantomachia. And in that moment, she slips and the anesthetic falls out of her hand. And with these past few pages, it just shows the growth that Mina has as a character ever since the beginning, since we saw her flashback. But it still also shows that she is still flawed, even though she was motivated to get the job done and that she would not falter. She still had fear inside of her, and that fear could be very costly, because immediately after she hesitates, she loses the anesthetic in her hand, so she's unable to throw it in Gigantomachia's mouth. And at the same time, Gigantomachia begins to go on a rampage, tossing and turning and throwing Mount Lady into the ground, throwing her away as he goes after Mina. She misses the anesthetic, throwing it in his mouth. The anesthetic flies away from her. She's about to be crushed by Gigantomachia. But suddenly, best boy Kirishima comes in for the save on Mina, pushing her out of the way and supposedly being caught in the attack of Gigantomachia while he's in his Red Riot unbreakable form. And what is very interesting about this scene is since we saw Mina in the flashback of how she was able to help her friends against the villain that we are now knowing definitively is Gigantomachia, Kirishima was in the area as well, and he was afraid to act. And this just shows the inverse of that, where at that moment Mina, she had fear, but she had the enough courage to go and protect her friends. But now she was stricken with fear, unable to move. But now Kirishima, who was unable to move out in that time because of fear, was able to move and save her. So it's like a cool parallel and callback to that moment where Mina was fearless even though she was scared and Kirishima couldn't save her. Now Mina is afraid and Kirishima came to save her. It just ties everything together, and I just really enjoyed it. And then from that moment, we see that Tetsu, second best boy, is on the scene as well. So you have Tetsu and Mina is so worried about Kirishima. He's like, but what about Kirishima? What's gonna happen to him? And Tetsu's just like, don't worry about him. He's not gonna burn. He may be a little bit toasty, but he's not gonna burn. Matter of fact, he was even faster than me. That's how he was able to get here. So we get the confirmation that even though, from what we see, Kirishima is in his Red Riot form, he is able to run, which, is something that he was unable to do at first because it was so heavy. So this just shows how much stronger Kirishima has become as a hero due to the fact that now he's able to run in his Red Riot unbreakable form. And then from here, and I'll get into what happened to Kirishima later, but from here we see that Gigantomachia is standing up straight. He's carrying the League of Villains on his back, or putting them on the top of his head, making sure that they're safe. And he begins saying all right, need to get comrades, the flies, gone. But he misses a fly, because you have Kirishima coming in yelling that I am Red Riot and I will not leave blood behind me. So we have Kirishima still in his Red Riot form, unbreakable form, climbing up Gigantomachia. As Gigantomachia sees him, we have Kirishima, who's most likely going to try to throw the anesthetic into Gigantomachia's mouth, and he throws it, and it shatters, and it's shattered by a knife. And then we see a scene of Toga. So Toga throws the knife at the anesthetic, cracking it, and we're thinking, and you may be thinking, oh no, Kirishima, that was his only choice. He only had one bottle of the anesthetic left. But no. Because then he's like, Ashido, your chivalry or your manliness I will not let it go to waste. So from what is happening here, not only did he have his own vial of the anesthetic, but while he was being slammed by the fist of Gigantomachia, he was able to not only save Mina, push her out the way, but also grab her anesthetic. And let's remember, he's in his unbreakable form. The first time we saw this form, he was only able to move slowly towards his enemies. Now he's able to save people, dodge attacks, while being able to reach for other things in this form. This is just showing how much Kirishima has grown when it comes to his quirk and that development, as well as it more establishes his character as being chivalry, manliness, as he takes the anesthetic, throws into Gigantomachia's mouth, and you see that it shatters. So, technically, the students, they accomplished their goal. Their goal was to throw the anesthetic into Gigantomachia's mouth and put him to sleep. Now, he doesn't go to sleep immediately, which is something that I predicted wouldn't happen because that's just not how this anesthetic would work. It works through injection, and the reason why it will work through injection is because you're able to get it throughout the body faster through the blood than you are through absorbing it in the stomach. That's just how the science of it works. And that is dabbled on a little bit later, but let's just continue on from where we see Kirishima throwing the anesthetic into his mouth. And as soon as he does it, Gigantomachia just comes in to like squash him like a fly. But unfortunately, he gets shot. Not Kirishima, but Gigantomachia gets shot by cannons from best girl Momo Yarurozu. She creates 3 big old cannons, which distracts Gigantomachia just in time for Tsukage, Lizard Girl, to save Kirishima. So, you know, everyone is happy. Kirishima succeeded in putting the anesthetic in Gigantomachia's mouth. And from here, we get the confirmation that the more that he moves, the faster that it will spread, meaning that it's not an instantaneous thing, that it will take time. And this is coming from the mouth of Momo, who, you know, is literally like the smartest student in the class. So trust her when she says this. But she also is not just saying this out loud. She's saying it to Majestic, the individual that she worked under. And from here, we see Majestic carrying other pro heroes towards Gigantomachia, preparing to fight him off as he says, like, thanks Momo. I knew there was a reason why I trust you. There's a reason why I thought like you would be good. But he's like, but besides that, we let the interns do all of this. Now it's time for the heroes to actually step in to fight Gigantomachia, as we see Gigantomachia calling them flies again and how they're never ending, as we see that his lower jaw moves upward, indicating that his lower jaw is going to act like a face shield. Now, how is he going to see through this face shield? It doesn't matter. It's Gigantomachia. He'll bulldoze through all of the heroes and go in a straight line and still make it to Shigaraki in time for him to pass out on the ground. So, you know, I think this kind of confirms an idea that I've been having this entire time, that he's going to pass out in Jaku City right when Shigaraki needs him most, because the anesthetic did go in his mouth. And you know what? Speaking of Shigaraki, I wonder what he's doing right now. Oh, that's what he's doing. He's prostrated on the ground as Endeavor is over him, because the attack that he took a few chapters ago, seriously did some damage. And you can tell because he's literally smoking in this chapter. So yeah, we get the end of the fight between Shigaraki, Endeavor, and the other heroes, where Shigaraki is down on the ground. Endeavor is basically talking smack to Shigaraki about how he will never win because the heroes will never yield to anyone without conviction. And we have Shigaraki who's like coming up, is like, huh? All of you heroes, you hurt your families only to help others. That is what my father said. And then you have Endeavor having a shocked expression, with Shigaraki continuing that if that's conviction, then I have it, as he begins to get up as this chapter ends. Or does it? Because I have one more page that I want to share with you. We just have this nice summer scene where you have Ochako looking nice in a bathing suit. You have Todoroki bearing, I believe that is, it's just Kirishima. Kirishima being buried in the sand. Ashido's in the background. They're all having fun. And then you have Deku who's like, oh my gosh, it's Gang Orca in the water. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get an autograph. As he comes to realization that it is not Gang Orca, but just Orca. And you have the little sign that says, be careful to not mistake people for others. So basically it's like stranger danger, stranger danger. But yes, technically the chapter has ended overall. And all I can say is, like, this was a really good chapter. I really did enjoy it. Like I said, this chapter did focus a lot more on Kirishima and Mina when it comes to their character growth, as well as their personal connection with Gigantomachia. Because among all of the students in the class, or even among all of the heroes, period, Kirishima and Mina have the closest connection with Gigantomachia, because if you don't remember correctly, Gigantomachia, as confirmed in this chapter, was that villain that Kirishima was unable to stop when he saw the girls in danger, as well as the same villain that Mina was able to trick to go towards the police station because he was looking for a specific hero agency and help her friends. And I thought that that's just a very cool connection, that you have these two characters who for the most part have their origins derived from this villain coming to fruition, coming to the main story, and showing how much they have grown as individuals as well as heroes, but then also showing how much they need to grow as well. Because people argue that Mina would make a great hero because of her personality and her drive, and when she's met with that opportunity to be a hero and with the stakes of Singapore against Gigantomachia, she faltered, even though many people thought that she would make a great hero. And in contrast to Kirishima, he didn't think that he would make a great hero, and that because he was afraid, and yet he was the one to actually accomplish the goal. So it just shows that character growth and development of each characters, and where they've started from and where they are now, as well as where they can go from here. As well as I enjoyed the fact that the plan technically succeeded. And when it comes to the plan that Momo created, we do not see the plan come to completion now, but the fact of the matter is that they were even able to throw the anesthetic into Gigantomachia's mouth proves that most likely than not, the plan will succeed, but it will not be immediate. Even Momo brings up the idea that the more he moves, the more the anesthetic will spread, meaning that it's not something that will happen immediately. So most likely, as I've been saying, Gigantomachia may escape the heroes that are in the forest, head to Draco City, scare the other heroes, but then pass out because the anesthetic will spread fully through the body. So that's something else that I predicted. As well as we get the end of this chapter where we see that Shigaraki did not go completely down, but is heavily injured by the attack by Endeavor, and how we get that Shigaraki truly is a villain that isn't just like, oh, I just want to destroy, I just want to obliterate everything. He has convictions, he has reasons for his destruction. Yes, he does want to destroy society by the fact that it is in his nature, but he also comes to the realization that society is completely flawed, that you heroes would put your lives on the line for people that you don't know, and by doing so, you abandon your families, you hurt your families, not physically, but emotionally. And it makes sense for the characters that you have, where you have Endeavor, who has both physically and emotionally hurt your family, and this idea coming from Shigaraki, who knows firsthand about the detriments of being a hero when it comes to family life, because his father abused him due to the fact that his grandmother abandoned his father, and his grandmother was a hero, Nana Shimura, which is very interesting because what he's saying is correct. And apparently this is told from his father figure, All For One, but there's still that little lingering idea of like the reason why she had to abandon her family was because she didn't want to put them in danger, because she was fighting off Shigaraki's father figure, All For One. So I think this is just building up more for the reveal where Shigaraki realizes that the reason why he's in this situation, the reason why his grandmother died and abandoned her son, was because of his father figure, All For One. And so that's going to be a really interesting dynamic and could potentially lead to Shigaraki completely cutting ties with his father figure and growing more into his own character and his own villain. Overall, really did enjoy this chapter. Really thought it was great. Can't wait for the official translations to come out. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you did, leave a like down in the comments below. Leave a comment. What did you think of this chapter? Did you enjoy it? What do you think is going to happen in the next chapter? Do you think we're going to continue from this point on with the fight between Shigaraki and Endeavor and Bakugo and Deku? What do you think? Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Do all of that cool jazz. And I will catch you in the next video. Goodbye for now.